I am concluding my second day here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. It's been a very busy day. I got to have conversations with a lot of really important people today, and I'm still getting support. They're still wanting more information. We're getting to the point of details now, and this is actually kind of the more exciting part. I've established my general position with the specific committees from both the Senate and the House that relate to the issues I'm discussing. And now that I've got their interests, I got to break down to the specific information. And I have to curtail it to both the Republicans and the Democrats because I have to show each side that they're getting something out of this. Again, both sides have the same goal in mind, and both sides would benefit from what I'm proposing, but you do have the politics to consider, and that's where it gets tricky. This is where the details are going to really start to matter. Um, if you've been watching CNN, you'll be seeing a lot of stuff about the whole Russian Flynn communique thing. And one of the things they've been talking about is that this might not have actually been illegal with specifics to the Logan Act, but it's politically sensitive. And that's important. It's actually probably more important as far as the political aspects of it than the legal aspects of it. And that's what we're getting ready to address. Uh, I really got to give a shout out again to the Iowa delegation. They've been actually very helpful on many of the aspects of this trip out here, helping me set up appointments with other representatives in the House, and helping me set appointments up in Senate offices. So I gotta hand it to the Iowa representation here. Doing a phenomenal job. Phenomenal job. Again, I want to thank Representative Young and his staff for his assistance. I have also been in communication with the Lobshack office, and they've been helpful. Also, Representative Steve King, his office staff has been very helpful, and actually has some really good connections in D.C. on Capitol Hill, and have been very helpful for me to get into appointments and to talk with other representatives and legislative assistants dealing with my specific topics. Again, the specifics on can they fully support it might not be nailed down yet, but they're interested. They want to know more details. They want to know the outcome. What will the outcome be? Not next year, but like 20 years from now. And it's also going to be partially based on: is the government going to save money on this? Is there going to be expenditure changes? That type of stuff. Is the reallocating of money going to actually be more efficiently spent? These are the type of things that they're discussing, because this is where the politics are going to come in. So just want to show you. This is just today. The meetings I've had. I thank again to Representative King for setting me up with Speaker Paul Ryan. That was very appreciative, and I thank your staff for the help on that. Getting some great feedback, learning how to maneuver some of the politic issues with my legislation proposal that might catch snags, and so that we can use the right language, the right vernacular to get support on both sides. Again, the support is, provisional. They encouraged me to go through with this through the Speaker's office. They don't propose legislation, they don't sponsor bills, but they were very helpful on guidance. And so, that's what you want about Paul Ryan. The guy's here and helping anybody. He doesn't care what the party affiliation you have. That is, I'll give that to his credit. I want to say that I appreciate that. That it didn't matter my party affiliation, which I don't disclose with most of these people, because in reality, I side with the Democrats on things, I side with Republicans on things. It depends on the issue, and If you're just down the ticket on absolutely everything, then you're ridiculous. You can't just be all the entire platform for the full catalog. It doesn't work. There's a lot of things that you probably don't actually support. So being able to deal with both sides on a civil level is nice. And so thank you, Speaker Ryan, for your time today, even though it was brief. I do want to say thanks. With the entire weekend so far, weekend. This has been my level of contacts. These are new contacts, senators, and there's specific one or two staffers that deal with the legislation that I'm talking about, and also House of Representatives, and maybe one or two staffers. I've been dealing with the Ways and Means Committee mostly today, and even got to sit in on some things. So that was cool. The Ways and Means Committee is through the House of Representatives. If you want to look them up and so the things they do, you can go online to the House.gov and get some information about them. Also, with the Senate, I'm concentrating my efforts with the Finance Committee, which for Iowa, Chuck Grassley is on. Orrin Hatch is the chair of that department. Of that committee, and I got to meet with his staff today as well. Great, Senator Hatch, I must say your staff is very helpful, and I look forward to discussing things with you in the future. And I think that'll be tomorrow. I think that's tomorrow too. So I look forward to seeing you. Today's going well. I'm exhausted. I haven't been getting much sleep, but I guess that's supposed to be how this is done. Getting to be inside the Capitol after hours, that's fun. I've been kind of, once they kind of get to know you and they know that you're working on stuff within the way it's supposed to be, doors open up here really quickly. And I've been getting pretty good treatment by the House of Representatives today. I've gotten some nice, cool stuff to help me with this legislative process, and I'm going to be communicating with the counterparts back in Des Moines, Iowa, on state legislation, and I've also been working with the New York offices quite extensively. In fact, two of my contacts I need to be working with for the Ways and Means Committee, Representative Higgins and Crowley, are people that I've been dealing with specifically from New York, and they have also been very helpful. Actually, kind of running around all of these offices. Sometimes I get the states and the names of the representation mixed up, but these people are really fascinating, and their staff, the people that work in their staffs, are in their offices, are quite the characters. I have met several people that would probably serve really well as stand-up comedians, and maybe if this whole politic thing doesn't work out for them, maybe they should look into a career in stand-up comedy, because they are pretty funny. But they have to deal with so many people that are just sometimes not the nicest people in the world, and they have to do it with a smile, and that's good. But I want to give a shout out to the office of John B. Larson. Your staff, specifically the people, the two ladies you have working the phones at the front, are amazing. They're some of the funniest people I've met on Capitol Hill, and even if you're calling in on things that you're angry about, they'll answer the phone with a smile. I could hear people yelling over the phone, and this girl had this nice big smile on her face and said, "I understand that you're upset. Let me try to see what I can do to happily help you." And the whole time when she was being yelled at, she was diligently trying to help the person, had a smile on her face the entire time. So, I probably shouldn't have shown you all of the specific email on that, but don't harass the guy, okay? Um, but no, this has been a great process. I hope Larson, United States Congressman John B. Larson, uh, I hope your staff gets some props on this. Anyway, guys, I've got a much bigger day tomorrow. This is my last day in DC, and I am getting invited to do some other things from some of the staff, uh, as just a way of saying, hey, thanks for working with us. It's to be kind of non-business stuff where we're not going to be discussing politics. It's just getting to build rapport and build relationships with the staff outside of the political realm. This is something that's encouraging. You just got to make sure that you don't break any ethical rules and keep things professional when they're professional, and keep it a separation when you're not doing your office stuff. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not mentioning anyone's names because if it ever gets back and say, hey, we didn't do anything, everyone's paying for their own stuff, we're just going to kind of socialize a little bit outside of the office, because their week's still going to be really hectic after I leave. And it's just about trying to build up those relationships. Let's see here. Tomorrow I'm dealing with mostly the Finance Committee in the Senate Hart building. Today, like I said, was mostly with the House of Representatives in Longfellow and Cannon and Rayburn, the Rayburn building. I probably have covered most of all the territory to march through the Rayburn building today. I was built in the mid 60s, and they have all the pictures of this construction in the basement hallway. And because you travel through tunnels underneath the buildings to get from building to building to building, instead of going through security all the time, we get to go through tunnels, and we can get to the Capitol through tunnels as long as we have Pacific escorts or the proper ID badges or pins in the lapels, which I took those off, so you didn't know what they are. These are the specific ones, but this is a lot of fun. It's a good experience. I wish more people would do it. I wish more people would call calmly to their congressional leaders and discuss policy and discuss the changes they want. I hope everyone had a good Valentine's Day. I personally hate the holiday. I haven't liked Valentine's Day. Oh, geez, it's been a long time since I've actually liked Valentine's Day. I don't celebrate it, and all the women in my life don't celebrate it either. So, yay for me, since no one really craves flowers in my life. Yeah, I wish I could get some more feedback from people on things that they would like to see done, because obviously not everyone's going to agree on every issue and every topic. But if I would be able to somehow help you with something that you're trying to get done, or you want more information on, if you just want to know who to get a hold of who represents you in Congress, I'll do that for you. I'm going to be here today, and I've established communications. I mean, I'll be able to communicate with pretty much anyone on Capitol Hill I really need to. So if you want help finding who your congressional leaders are, let me help you. Just shoot me a quick message saying, this is where I live. I'm just trying to find who specifically represents me. And I will do my best to help you out with that. If you want to relate specific messages to members of Congress, I will help you I will facilitate that transaction with you being able to communicate through whatever means you would like, through email, faxing, telephone communications. I will do what I can to help you out. This should be a team effort. Everyone on Capitol Hill. When you're in the offices, sometimes you see some staunch memorabilia of partisan lines, but you go outside into the hallway, and you'll see two senators or two representatives that are on the opposite spectrum, having a good laugh and talking with each other in a calm manner. And I wish people would understand that the other side is not the enemy. It's a reasonable opposition party, and that's what you need to be looking at it as a reasonable opposition party. At the same time, the other side does need to show some reasonability, and this is beyond presidential politics, guys. Donald Trump, or whoever the president is, even if it was Barack Obama, is not the legislator in chief. If you want changes in policy, if you want changes in how your specific life is going to be affected, it's not with the executive branch. It's with Congress, and it always has been. That's the reason why the Republicans have been so successful at retaking the House and the Senate, is that they've concentrated, they've understood, they've learned that when it comes to their policies, the White House they can set the agenda, but they can't determine everything that Congress discusses and the bills they pass. They can just encourage legislation. Then there's executive orders, which can be overwritten. Even at the height of his power, FDR was overwritten a lot on his vetoes. And Barack Obama was overwritten on a veto. So, and then we've seen recently with Donald Trump with his travel restrictions, that just because you have an executive order doesn't mean it's going to stick. The court system does work. And regardless of your policy on this or your position, I mean, like I said during the election, all the crazy shit that whoever wants to be president is going to do on domestic issues, as far as in and out of this country and things that affect people that are in this country, Congress and the judicial branch have ways of checking that. Now, the stuff outside of the country, the president has a little bit more leeway, and Congress doesn't have as many checks on them, with the exception of actual war. You do have to have a declaration. It's not enacted on very successfully because we've been in extremely long conflicts that are military in nature. But there are restrictions, and Congress can rein in military operations if they so chose. So if you wanted to stop a military conflict that was not through a declaration of war, if you were putting more pressure on your congressional leaders to cut off funding for said operations, you would get more success. You would find that you're able to stop the things that you want to stop so badly. And there's some times that we don't live in a perfect world, and the things that we do, we kind of have to do. I would like to say this, that we need to move past this whole Russia is the enemy thing. The Cold War was the Cold War. The Soviet Union does not functionally exist anymore, so we should quit trying to put the Russians as being the enemy. There are a lot of things globally that the Russians and the Chinese can be our friend on. Even the Iranians, there are issues to where the Iranians could be our friend. The Iranians and ISIS aren't known to being the best of friends. So we should work on trying to, again, compromise. Work on the things that we can together, and where we don't get along, let's don't go to war or attack each other on it. That's not helping. The whole thing with Flynn, with him talking with the ambassador to the United States from Russia, was that he was violating all these things. Well, they've just mentioned on CNN several times that he actually hasn't broken any law. The Larson Act, the Logan Act. I know where Larson came from. The Logan Act has. There's not enough evidence to invoke an investigation on the Logan Act, because we don't know what was said. In fact, if I wanted to get a hold of the Russian ambassador, I can. I actually know how to do that. I have the phone numbers. I know the code to call in and get a hold of people within the embassy and the consulates for the Russian Federation. Now, what I discuss there, depending on what my ability to persuade foreign policy would be, it's not illegal to communicate with the ambassadors of other countries. In fact, a lot of embassies have cultural events to where people from the United States are encouraged to come into the embassies and talk with the high-ranking officials from that country. Now, Flynn, who's had connections with Russia, doesn't mean that he was trying to comment on current policy. He might have been saying, I know that, because especially with respect to the sanctions placed on the Russian Federation by Barack Obama towards the end of the Obama administration. Almost always throughout history, since the beginning of the Soviet Union in the 1920s, there was a diplomatic breakdown between what was the Russian Empire into the Soviet Union between the United States, and recognition of the Soviet Union didn't take place until the mid-30s. So thanks to FDR for that. And so diplomats traveled back and forth between the two countries in the 1930s. And then every time they've had a diplomatic spat, one country expels or recalls the ambassadors into the other country. It goes back and forth. And when Russian ambassadors were expelled from the United States, what would have been typical would be for Putin to expel the American ambassadors. And that breaks down communication, that inhibits people from being able to communicate. So for a president who said he wanted to have diplomacy as an answer, not war or military conflict, by shutting down lanes, paths of communication, by expelling diplomats, is against the core message of your administration. Just putting that out there. But the fact that Putin said, you know what, I understand that the next administration wants to try to discuss things with us a little bit differently, and expelling ambassadors at this point of the current administration, which was outgoing, would have been a waste of time and effort, when the whole point of it was trying to discuss, you know what, let's do it, let's figure out what we're going to do. Don't act too harshly right now, because it'll just make things more difficult when we do come into power. And if he did that, just saying, we're asking you to take caution, we're not promising you anything, because there's no proof that he promised them anything at all. There's no promise about removing sanctions. There was no promise about what it could be, what Russia could do to have the sanctions lifted. Most likely, and I mean highly likely, those specific things were not discussed, because Trump, I'm pretty sure, from the times that I've dealt with the transition team and with staff and that policy in Trump Tower over the last couple of months, it was kind of like there wasn't much of a policy or reaction. It was kind of case by case, transaction by transaction, which is how Trump does things. Trump is more issue by issue rather than broad, sweeping policies. With the travel restrictions, he said these specific countries have an issue with, they don't have proper identification for the citizens there. This is a problem, and North Korea would be a country that also has this problem. Also, Venezuela has a problem with a lot of their passports being stolen, proper, real passports being stolen, and people getting fake birth certificates in Venezuela where they could become anyone they wanted to. So maybe that would be, that's a situation where we don't know who you actually are. It doesn't have anything to do with religion. It has to do with, we want to know who you actually are. Now, people who have green cards here, people who had visas, who we could already verify that they were here, there's no reason to not let them in. A lot of people in these countries aren't the enemy. In fact, Persians, next to Israel, that the actual people who live in Iran have a relatively high regard looking towards the United States. Does everybody have that? No. Do people say death to America in Iran? Yes. There are people who say death to America in the United States, and they were natively born American citizens. So it's called psychopaths that we need to deal with. So I would like to see if there is going to be recourse on this and a redirect from the Trump administration. I would like to see it be a little bit more specific and allow people who do have the proper standing, proper statuses, and can verify their identification to not be held at the border. And maybe we should look at programs to maybe more efficiently cultivate these people into the American system, if they're going to be sticking around here, if they're going to be going back to their countries, and it's one of these countries that are having major problems right now. Maybe we should ensure they have the proper skills that when they go back, they can make that country great again as well. So that's just a little bit of my policy. I know a lot of people think that I'm all crazy for having a lot of support for the Trump administration. Do I support him on everything? No. Again, that'd be dumb. You can't support anybody on everything. This is a Star Wars quote. Only Siths think. How I can't say that. Only Siths think in absolutes. So, and I think we've seen with the way Trump has handled some of the things that it hasn't been absolutely like you're fired. It's been, let's see what's going on with specific to his staff. So I don't think he's thinking in absolutes. His tweets might be, but I think they're impulsive, not absolute, and he goes back on things a lot. So it shows that he's not an absolutist in his thinking. Anyway, guys, I'm at 25:52 on this. I'm signing out. I'm going to bed. I got a big day tomorrow. So, again, thank you to all the members of Congress, both the House and the Senate, that have worked with me over the last couple of days. It's greatly appreciated. I want to thank your staffs. I know I've been dealing with a lot of you directly, but with your staffs that I have been building up communications with, they're really nice. They're really friendly, and they enjoy this. They're here for a purpose, and they enjoy this. It's fun talking about stories about different states and things I've done in those states, and it's nice. Anyway, guys, have a good night. Enjoy your Valentine's Day. I will be up early on Capitol Hill in the morning, probably before the sun rises. I got some meetings that actually I really do appreciate being allowed in early. So for the staff that have arranged that, thank you again for that. I do appreciate it, and for the sweet coat checks. So thanks everybody. Have a good night, and I will talk to you soon.